Hello, YouTube. First of all, I want to apologize. I have a Blue Yeti mic. They're supposedly supposed to be good. I did buy a renewed one, but it just is not performing. So I will be abusing Amazon's return policy to the fullest. I suggest you always do the same. Anyways, today I'm going to talk about why transphobic propaganda is so effective. And I have a theory for this. And before I say anything, I don't purport myself as an expert by any means. I never thought my channel would be, I figured it would just be stupid prison stories. I never thought my content about dating trans women would hit in any way and that people would care about what I had to say. Anyways, without ending the preamble, let's get into it. So I'm a little bit older, and I think my audience is a little bit older. So you probably remember after 9/11, there was a ton of anti-Muslim propaganda on even CNN. A lot of people don't remember, man. The Democrats were like ready to go for war. I'm from a rural area, where there was all this rah-rah over, turn the Middle East into a parking lot. People really fell for that propaganda pretty hard. But, I'm in Michigan and we have a pretty high Muslim population, Dearborn and whatnot. And even in like the most rural areas, most people at least knew a Middle Eastern person just from like working at the liquor store. And I don't say that to be stereotypical, but it is just a true thing. So at least even with the propaganda, they had something to compare it to. They could say, oh, these images I'm being fed of, jihadis or whatever. Yeah, but like the guy I know from my everyday life isn't like that. So at least I know they're all not like that. And you can, let's take a look at the other side of the coin. I was working with my girlfriend to do a video and she showed me this Christian pastor doing a rod and staff. Here, let me show you a clip of it.
Gosh, just shut up. I can handle it. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. Oh, God, that hurts. Oh, God, I'm so tired. Oh, God, I didn't want to lose her. Oh, God, I didn't want to have that pain. Oh, God, no. Oh. God, you love me so much, don't you?
Yes. And, that's one of the people they have out there, like for the Christians, like that's who's representing them, And we see all kinds of crazy guys like that. The Southern senators complaining about abortion in the name of Christianity and all that. But we also know the little old ladies that go to church just as a community thing. And all the people who go to church and aren't super into the political end of it, where it's almost, like I said, more of a community thing. We know they're not all like that. Even the most, really raggedly anti-Christian people kind of recognize that fact. Now we get to trans people. And there's a statistic I heard that 80% of people don't know a trans person.
GLAAD did a study a few years ago that found that 80% of Americans claim to not personally know someone who's transgender. So everything that Americans learn about transgender people, for the most part, they learn from the media. And those representations have been really troubling, really stigmatizing, and have, not been so great for trans people.
And personally, I think it's got to be way higher, or at least the number is skewed in a very important way. Like I bet when you get to these major metropolitan areas that, have high amounts of the population, most people probably know a trans person. But then when you get out to some of these states, probably the vast majority don't. So you have these huge swaths of land across the US that have no thing to compare, like a regular person to compare it to compared to the propaganda they're receiving. And, you look at some of the propaganda, not just the propaganda, but, like the video of the trans woman freaking out at GameStop.
Motherfucker, take it outside. If you want to call me sir again, I will show you a sir.
I apologize. I apologize now.
Or similar ones. And the truth is, every group has those crazy viral public freak out videos. Every group does. But like I said, with trans people, so many people have nothing, that's all they see of them. And even take it past the viral videos into politics. There's, whatever group you're a part of, the most normal people of that group do not draft towards politics. You know what I mean? I don't care. Like, just look at some of these videos.
I'm a member of the St. Cloud Hive of the Parents and Allies of Trans Youth, the Transgender Movement for Liberation, and a member of the Tea Time Support Group run by the Aliveness Project. I am also a proud transgender woman, but more importantly, I am the mother of 2 wonderful transgender and gender expansive children.
Okay, and to clarify, I'm not making fun of that woman's looks. I'm merely stating that the average trans person is also not the mother of 2 trans kids. That's kind of like exactly what the propaganda is saying, like, that people are afraid of, you know? But it's not just that. It's that not every trans person is part of 15 organizations about being trans. Let me tell you another thing. Not every trans person thinks they're living in Holocaust Germany. There's some people who are like happy being trans. You know, it's just, you definitely see a very one-sided take on things when you only see the trans community through the internet and through politics and through media. And that's the thing, is you can do that with any group, but it's just so effective in building people's stereotypes when it's a group that, for lack of a better word, is so alien, just in the fact that they don't know a single one. You know, you get this image in your head. For me, it wasn't like the propaganda that I fell for, but it was there's certain internet spaces that are very dominated by trans people, specifically trans women. Reddit and Twitter, certain spheres of Twitter are definitely very dominated. And you see, even though it's like a huge amount of people, that there very much is an archetype. There's not a lot of like free thinking. And a lot of this has to do with that group being extremely online compared to, say, like trans women of color. So of course I didn't realize it, but it was a very narrow population I was looking at. And, I don't say this to be mean or funny, but it was like, a lot of them are like really into anime. It seems like a huge amount of them identified as like lesbian or into like other trans women. Like I said, a lot of like really big into video games. It seemed like, like I said, a very defined type, specifically like younger trans women too. And then, I meet my girlfriend and her friends, and none of them, at least the trans ones, weren't into anime. And I was kind of like, and I felt dumb, obviously, seeing it later. And I was like, oh, this is, there's a lot more diversity of thought in the trans community than you would think. For example, if you went on Reddit, you would think that 100% of trans people are in favor of extremely liberal HRT policies, like giving full access to very young kids, no say for the parents, everything. But let me tell you, when you talk to trans women, not all of them are totally in favor of giving kids HRT at a young age. Let me tell you, a lot of trans women really don't care about kids. Like, they aren't super politically invested in that argument. And another thing too is not all trans women are in favor of all this child drag stuff. I know a woman who's, was into drag before she became trans and is still a huge fan of it. And she says she doesn't get it. If anything, it's drawing a bunch of negative attention. And, so you can't rely on what you see in the media to represent those groups. It's like thinking, like the average Black person is like on some Louis Farrakhan level stuff, you know what I mean? Or that like the average white person is like, I don't know, like, on some David Duke level. I don't know what a good equivalent would be, and it's just, it's funny how things land, that it happens to be so effective with this tiny population. And think about how tiny it is. It always blows my mind why people in, Idaho or, West Virginia are like so up in arms about a group that I'm looking for trans women and I live in a city and I can't find them hardly. It's, how many of them can there be in BFE, Like, what are you getting upset about? They're not there. It's funny. I don't know, I feel weird trying to do any sort of political commentary. Like I said, I do not take my word as gospel. I'm not going to tell you about global warming, if it's real, fake, or anything like that. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. I would like to know your thoughts on the topic, especially any trans women watching. Do you have any views that like don't fit the regular mold of the community? Because I notice it can be hard to voice those. Goddamn, like one critique I have of the trans community is they are vicious to people who tell detransition stories. And I mean, they can be pretty vicious to anybody that kind of, breaks the party line. But I mean, that can be said of any group, like I've said before. So anyways, if there's any other topics you'd like me to discuss, I racked my brain. I think I have enough content for like one more story about like gay dudes in prison. There's not, at that point I'd have to make stuff up, and I think a lot of these prison YouTubers do. It's kind of funny, man, because if you do YouTube, you realize you go for your best stories real quick. So it's crazy to me some of these prison YouTubers are continually pulling great stories out of their pocket, because it just don't. Let me tell you, I got a lot of stories and it don't work like that. So thank you everybody once again for your continual support. StraightFelon on Twitter, www.straightfelon.com for the stuff I can't put on YouTube. Thank you, LGBT community, seriously. So now my girl had her first day at a new job. I think I'm gonna cook her dinner and I'm gonna go buy some candles because she'll like that. Thank you.